We have gone through some of the more difficult aspects of what it is that we will be talking about to our European counterparts in the context of continuing negotiation. There are some parts which are just technically very tricky and require explanation and discussion. And I've been very pleased to see that Mr. Lammy, despite his very full in-tray on many issues, not least the Middle East, Ukraine, elections in the United States, has had time to be fully briefed on the Gibraltar issues. He came to the meeting very well briefed and very well prepared on even the most difficult of the tricky aspects that we'll be dealing with.
And in terms of those tricky aspects, GBC understands that Gibraltar negotiators are not shifting on any issue relating to Spanish presence in Gibraltar or harmonization of indirect taxes with Spain. So are these the major remaining sticking points?
So when I talk about tricky aspects, there are things which are technically tricky. In other words, they're not tricky because there are political issues or pitfalls there. They're just very difficult aspects of the technical, incarnation of this negotiation. And getting them right do not necessarily lead to, or getting them right or wrong do not necessarily lead to sovereignty issues. They just need to be got right because we're dealing with a treaty that we hope will endure if we do a treaty that enjoys democratic consent from the people of Gibraltar. So we need to get it right, not just for one generation, but for many. But also there are aspects which are considerably difficult in the political and economic space, and we have to get those technical aspects right. Look, what GBC understands is what people would expect, as I've said before in the context of this negotiation. Every Gibraltarian would share the view that the government of Gibraltar is advancing at the negotiating table, and the government of Gibraltar and the government of the United Kingdom, whether it's a Labour administration or a Conservative administration, are working hand in glove in this negotiation. There's nothing that we're saying at the negotiating table that would lead anybody in Gibraltar to have a sharp intake of breath or a concern on any matter relating to any of the fundamental issues that every Gibraltarian holds dear and is fundamental to our understanding of what protecting Gibraltar and its sovereignty and its interests and the wishes of its people would involve.
In terms of the issues being discussed, a recent report in El País also reported that a joint UK-Spanish fund will be created to compensate Spanish workers on the Rock for their pensions, addressing a long-standing issue raised by Spain. What can you tell us about this?
Well, look, I can tell you not to believe everything that you read in the newspapers and not to believe anything that you read in the Spanish newspapers, in particular, as we're going towards the final stages of the negotiation. And somebody, I don't know where, might think that they might advance their position in the context of the negotiation by putting something that they may be asking for in a Spanish newspaper, as if that were going to put pressure on the Gibraltar or UK negotiating teams. The government of Gibraltar is very clear. I believe that this is an area where we have a shared position with the United Kingdom, which goes back beyond the treaty negotiations and beyond Brexit. There is no discrimination in respect of nationality in relation to the payment of pensions between Gibraltarians, Gibraltarian British, other British, and any other nationality in Gibraltar. If you've contributed to Gibraltar's social insurance scheme, you get the old age pension, whatever your nationality may be, and it's the same, whatever your nationality may be. So there is no discrimination to correct, let alone any fund that's going to be paying anything that the people of Gibraltar are going to be contributing to.
With regards to the issues raised, you mentioned technical issues, you mentioned obviously more sensitive political issues. 8 years on from Brexit, if these issues have not been firmed up in all this time, is there still a possibility that this is going to be resolved, and especially in time for November, which is the next sort of target date given the introduction of the Schengen entry-exit system?
Well, you talk about 8 years, but in fact, the negotiations only been going on for 2.5 years. You know that in that period, there have been hiatuses because of general elections in different jurisdictions, Spain, Gibraltar, and the United Kingdom. There's been a hiatus for a European election. So we haven't even had the benefit of 30 months of negotiation. It's been a lot less than that. So yes, I'm still optimistic that if people are faithful to the things that they have said at the negotiating table, the things that they have previously agreed, if they don't resile from those positions, if they don't get buyer's remorse of the things that they have agreed to, we can be very close to an agreement being done. If there's going to be a resiling of positions, then of course you're never going to be able to reach an agreement. The government of Gibraltar, the government of the United Kingdom are faithful to the positions that they advance at the negotiating table on each of the stages and moments that we've been negotiating. We don't resile from a position. We make considered views, which we take considered views, which we advance in the negotiation to achieve an agreement. And therefore, I'm still confident that it is possible to reach an agreement that, as I've said, doesn't cross our red lines, but also doesn't cross the red lines of our negotiating counterparties.